What's up, everyone? This is Ryan from Jumpseat Radio here in the Jumpseat Studios. And I've been talking about it for a little while now, about getting my camera out here and doing some vlogs, run and gun type videos that goes along with the podcasts. Number one, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you guys for all the downloads, breaking over 100,000 downloads of the Jumpseat Radio Podcast. It's pretty unbelievable. What you're getting ready to listen to on YouTube is episode number 66. I'll let the podcast do the explaining, and other than that, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our new sponsor of the Jumpseat Radio Podcast, Chief Miller. Make sure to check him out over on Instagram at Chief_Miller. He posts pictures and stories from firefighters from around the world. He has the largest firefighter-based Instagram page, and you can check him out over on chiefmillerapparel.com. So let's get right into the show, and welcome to the YouTube channel.
You're listening to Views from the Jumpseat Podcast. Bunker up, buckle in. It's time for the show to begin. One thing remains constant in the fire service is that we start day one in the jump seat. So if you're a chief officer, welcome back. If you're the day one probationary, welcome aboard. It's time for Jumpseat Radio. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Jumpseat Radio, the podcast that brings you the views and opinions of the backwards riding, hose toting, ladder truck driving podcast. That's right, it's episode number 66 of the Jumpseat Radio, and I am super pumped that you've taken time out of your busy day to download, subscribe, and listen to this podcast. It's hard to believe it's been 66 episodes since we started, and I am super pumped to talk about today's topic. No guest today. Ryan's flying solo, so we're going to try to keep this one to a 30-minute show. And today's topic really came about through the social airways last night. My wife was running a little bit late coming home from work. She got held over just a tad, and I hadn't been on Twitter as much as I used to. So the social media stuff is definitely a time suck, and you can find yourself getting stuck in there for hours. And I pretty much made a resolution that I'm not going to debate topics over Twitter anymore, or tactics. Not so much topics, but tactics, because it's a no-win situation. It's like you can agree with someone, but in a 240 characters or 280 characters, whatever it is nowadays on the Twitter, it's like you cannot get on the same page. I am all about debates, and I love spirited debates with different viewpoints, but that's just not, that forum is just not where I think it needs to happen. I mean, I publish my telephone number 304-545-6336 all the time. You can call me, we can talk. And yesterday there was some controversial stuff put out there. I don't think it's controversial because I've went down this rabbit hole. I've spent the time reading about fire dynamics, and a certain entity pushed out kind of maybe what some would see as a retraction about whether we can or cannot push fire. And it's like, man, there goes the Twitter grenade. It starts blowing up across the social airways. Okay, so Ryan, not being the old Ryan that would jump in there and start sharing my opinions and my views, I was like, you know what? What if we take this amount of passion about a topic that's supposed to be controversial? I don't feel it's controversial. Some do. What if we take that amount of spirit, gumption, initiative, and push our firefighters to be better? So the title of this week's podcast is Pushing Firefighters. And that's where we want to get started. But first and foremost, we have to announce, I need to insert some sort of music right here. Dun, 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 some trumpets playing. We have our second major sponsor of the Jumpseat Radio Podcast from around the world. His Instagram is active. It's awesome. And he shares views and opinions, pictures, videos from around the world of fire service. We're super stoked for have Chief Miller on, not only as a sponsor of the podcast, but he also sponsors some of the giveaways in our Fighting Fires and Hoarding House classes. So if you folks are attending any of the classes coming up, you're going to see some Chief Miller stuff pop up during class. And it's pretty awesome information and pretty awesome things he's sharing with us. But you can also find Chief Miller on all the social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and you can also check him out at Chief Miller chiefmillerapparel.com. So Chief Miller, when you're listening, I'm sure you will be listening. Thank you so much for coming on board as a sponsor of Jumpseat Radio. All right. Catching up with the nation. So after this recent social chatter about the firefighters being able to push this fire, it was an amazing discussion. One that I will, unfortunately, be tackling in the near future. And my 2 cents with this is we don't push solid fuels. We push gas. Gas is turned to fire. Can you push fire? Yes. Is it pushed with water? No, it's pushed with air. Air comes out with your water, but blah, 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 blah. So I want to take some of that energy that we spent yesterday in talking about this discussion, and let's start talking about how can we push our firefighters. And I'm not talking about pushing as the fire chief down. I'm not talking as lateral officers pushing one another. I'm talking to us as a whole, because here's the thing is we all are a team. I hate to use the cliche this, we're only as strong as our weakest link. My question would be is, are you listening to this podcast? Are you the weakest link? And how would you know if you are or are not that weakest link in your crew? Well, here's Ryan's side of the story. It's by actually going out and drilling with each other. It's by doing these skills around the fire station. And these doesn't have to be directed by your officers. Matter of fact, it would be better if it's initiated from the bottom. That's the theme of Jumpseat Radio. It's the theme of stuff I write about, where I don't think leadership dictates it. I think followership dictates it. I think your pride, I think your ego. Oh, careful, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about ego. Your ego should be the one dictating these particular skills. And they're things that you should be practicing constantly. And I said, well, Ryan, I've been on this job now for 22 years and I don't know. Bumpkus. Because I tell you, it's something that I see in the media. It's something I see in my volunteer. It's something I see in the career. It's something I see in our locals. This is something that affects all of us. And whether you call it complacency or whether you call it ego or whatever you call it, when that bell hits, you have to perform. I mean, listen, folks, in the last 6 months, I've been on 2 fires with successful rescues where everything went right. And one of them, we had a firefighter mayday and it didn't go right. So it's like, man, I mean, I know this is so cliche to sit there and thinking, why is Ryan wasting podcast number 66 on talking about these things? It's because we get lazy. L-A-Z-Y. You ain't got no alibi. You lazy. You late. Okay. Enough rap. So we want to respect your rank. We want to respect your title. We want to respect your time on the job. But let's be honest. When that bell rings, we all have to perform. Gone are the days of us standing around while the probationary is working their guts out, performing and honing their craft while we just sit there. I mean, whether you're a superstar in your firehouse or you're a snot-nosed new guy, we all should lean on each other to perform or to improve our performance. When that new firefighter comes into your house or your fire station, man, welcome in. Do they got to do extra work? Yeah, they do. We expected them to put more time in? Yes, we do. But for Pete's sakes, go get your gear on and do it with them. It's going to take your ego. It might take a shot to your ego. Because I'm telling you, some of the recruits that we put out, they're better at putting their gear on. They're better at making stretches. Heck, the other day we have a new probationary in our fire station. Man, I tell you, I love having him. It's just seeing him make that evolution into our business. And the other day I was like, man, let's go make a stretch. So he pulled the engine around back. We were in an engine at the time, and we made a stretch down to the basement, through the basement, up the other side stairs. And man, he outperformed me. But now keep in mind, I'm a little bit older, a little bit rounder. Yeah. But I was like, hey, all right, this was good. I've identified some deficiencies and being the officer's role, the backup firefighter's role, and using and being that backup firefighter. And it's time to work on those particular skills. But here Ryan is thinking, hey, man, this is something I should be able to do efficiently and perform smoothly. But in honesty, I had some bumps in the road. I mean, I felt a whole lot better afterwards, going back and not really berating myself, but giving an honest evaluation. Heck, we tried the Nick Martin roll technique where we rolled the hose down the hallway and then we rolled the hose up. I mean, the rolling of the length of the hose was fantastic, Nick. Thank you for sharing. And it was an awesome opportunity to check that out. But we checked it out by doing it, not by having the recruit doing or the rookie doing it. It was all of us going and doing it. So that's where it starts. So today's podcast is pushing firefighters. And when I'm talking about pushing firefighters, you've got to have you can't just go push somebody. Well, I guess you can. I mean, hopefully you're not pushing them down the stairs, but that's okay. So with pushing firefighters, I want to talk about 5 skills that you should be practicing every day. Every day that you put your fire boots on, they're essential for firefighter, officer, and chief success. 5 skills that you can perform inside the firehouse. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It doesn't take you going down the drill field. It's something you can do just in your fire station, whether alone. And hopefully it's going to be with your crew. I mean, let's face it. Let's hope the purpose of this podcast is to encourage the ones around you. First and foremost, before you do these things, you have to make sure we follow all the safety precautions. We have to have all of our PPE on, including your fire gloves. We'll save that rant for another podcast. But we want to make sure that we're looking out for one another. We're following the safety procedures. But at the same time, let's challenge each other. Dare I say go race? Okay, we have a race. As long as we're following all the safety procedures, let's have a race. So today's podcast, Pushing Firefighters, I want to push you with 5 essential skills that you can practice next shift, next drill night, next time you're at the firehouse, the next time that you go someplace where you're ready to serve. Number 1, PPE donning and doffing. Oh, come on, Ryan. Come on now. Do we really need to spend some time on the Jumpseat Radio Podcast with this? The answer is yes. Why? Because it seems like when I see folks responding to arriving on scene of or in the process of getting to these structural fires, I see waist belts undone. Oh my gosh. Huge pet peeve. I will save that soapbox for another day. No flash hood, whatever you call your Nomex hood, no encapsulating hood. Somebody forgot a glove. It's just disheveled firefighters. Let's use that. Disheveled firefighters showing up to some place. They're getting ready to go into a super hostile environment, and they're not prepared. And the thing about it is whether it's complacency, whether it's overconfidence, or whatever your excuse is, there is no excuse for you showing up without your PPE on. Period. Slow down in the firehouse. Go over your process. Go over your process of how you put your boots on. When do you throw your hood on? Where's your radio at? I mean, I had this discussion. It's so funny. A lot of my topics come from things that happen inside my firehouse, but I had this discussion with the recruit or a rookie the other day. And it's like, hey man, why is your radio not near your turn-on gear? Well, I was listening to it. I get that. But when the bell hits right now, where are you going to run? You're going to run straight to the truck. Guess what? Your radio's not there. Hey, listen, these systems, these repetitions, these time spent in a non-stressful situation is what leads to situations or success in the stressful situations. So it takes the time to go do some PPE donning, doffing, go put your gear on. Make sure it fits for one thing. Okay. Moving on, Ryan. I don't know why mine shrunk, by the way. I think it was the hot water we washed it in. But anyway, go back to putting on your PPE. How do you wear your radio? Can you get to your Mayday? Can you call your Mayday with your gloves on? Where's your SCBA? Does it ride low on your hips so you freeze up your shoulders? And then get together and just do a race. I'm telling you, you better watch out. You're going to get your feelings hurt. If you go race your probationary or your new firefighters racing to put gear on, you might find out you may lose. And if you do, I'd love to hear about it. You can tweet it at Jumpseat Views. You can post a Instagram picture and tag at Jumpseat Views, or post it on Facebook. I'd love to see a video of you folks out there putting your PPE on in a race type condition and a recruit beating a seasoned veteran. That would be phenomenal. So take the time to build the base and then build the skill. And in the meantime, add some more variables in it. Give out an address. Go put your PPE on. Hey, what was the address? Where's the nearest hydrant? Do you know where the nearest hydrant is? All this stuff builds. And we're talking about repetition. We are what we repetitively do. It's so funny that some of the busier companies who go to box alarms, who do the things the right way, or an automatic fire alarm and put their gear on every time, they're skilled and versed at this stuff. Some of us who don't, we can be a little bit rusty. So pushing firefighters, topic number 1, PPE donning and doffing. Just as important as donning is doffing or taking it off is just as important. The cancer stuff aside, we need to make sure that we're placing it back in service where it's readily available and we can get to it quickly. And we want to make sure that system is the same each and every time. After the fire, you don't just take your gear off and throw it down in a corner. You go figure out what your system is and go do it. And so it's so funny that even in my volunteer station, we had a structure fire the other morning, and I took my gear off the same way I do when I work at the career house, filled my SCBA cylinders, because I learned real quick a good lesson to learn in the fire service is just because you're done with this fire doesn't mean there's not another one right around the corner. And if you ever get caught without your gear and your SCBA not ready, leaving a fire, going to another fire, you'll never forget it. Pushing firefighter skill number 2, portable ladders. Portable ladders seem often overlooked, whether you're assigned to a rescue ambulance ladder or anything. We need to know the capabilities of the reach. Does your 24-foot ground ladder, can we hit the 3rd floor? Does the 35 hit the 4th floor? And then you need to be an expert. Okay. You see what I did there? You can reference the last part. Okay. You need to be very efficient and understanding of a 1-person, 2-person, maybe even a 3-person throw of these capabilities and these of the ground ladders. You need to know the balance points. It's so funny that somebody that I watch on social media, John Spera from out in Colorado, he's he is big into firefighter fitness, and he put himself out there on social media and said, hey guys, listen, portable ladders is my weak point. I need to get, and he's been throwing ladders every day. Imagine if we would follow his lead and say, hey, listen, it's something that I'm weak on, portable ladders, and go throw, deploy, stow, and learn about it and get your hands on these ladders. I don't think these 5 skills that we're talking about today can be practiced enough. I mean, I don't think Alex Rodriguez never said, I don't need to go to batting practice because I'm good enough at hitting the balls. It just don't work like that way. So skill number 2 is portable ladders. Start with the attic ladder, work your way all the way up to the big boy 35. 35 and get out there and get your hands on these portable ladders, because so far the first 2 skills can make a difference in someone's life somewhere. I mean, the PPE donning and doffing and the portable ladders, just imagine if you can't put your PPE on, you select the wrong ladder to go for a rescue, and then someone burns up because you're not ready. It's going to be your responsibility, and it's going to be us who have to live with that disappointment. So we don't want to disappoint our citizens, just like we don't want to disappoint our fellow brothers and sisters in the firehouse. So skill number 2, portable ladders. All right, my favorite number 3. Pushing firefighters number 3 is stretching. That's right. It's not stretching out of the recliner to reach over and grab the remote control of the fire stick and complaining about the entertainment director for the evening. It's about understanding hose loads. Everybody gripes and complains about everything being standardized in the fire service. Okay, here's Ryan's gripe about it. There are different hose loads out there. Go learn them. That's it, everyone. Welcome. No, just kidding. The thing about it is, if you're truly understanding and a craftsman of our trade, you need to look at that and say, hey, that's a Minuteman. Hey, that's a modified Minuteman. That's a flat load. That's a triple fold, and understand how to deploy each one of them without question. That's just who we are. I mean, come on now. Let's see. What was on Netflix yesterday? A lot of folks will say, well, that's not why we're here. We're here to be knowledgeable, dare I say, proficient firefighters. I don't really think that all fire department trucks should be standardized. I think all firefighters should be standardized, knowing to identify and deploy each particular load. Our areas aren't the same. Why do our fire trucks have to be the same? Coming with that, pushing firefighters to practice stretching, you need to know how to compensate for different snags, compensate for common bad stretches. Somebody just dumps the load right there beside the truck. You need to understand how to compensate for these. You need to do it with obstacles in the way. It's so funny that we practice stretching hose lines out in nice flat bay areas and nice flat parking lots. But when we show up, we've got like a 1922 Hyundai Sonata. We've got a fence, and dare I say, we got some hoarding stuff going on. We need to make sure that we can go around, over, behind, upstairs, downstairs, through the basement, around the woods, making our stretches. I mean, the thing about it is, folks, is these don't take any money. These don't take, oh, sure, we've got to re-rack the hose. Come on. Maybe you rack it better than you did before. If you're racking it's not nice, pull it off and do it again. Repetitions. We're looking for repetitions and muscle memory. Main thing about making stretches, we want to do this with all of our PPE on. PPE being SCBA. That means having our face piece attached, not to our face, but having our fire gloves on. We want to be able to make these stretches with all of our PPE on. All right, number 3, stretching. Number 4, catching a hydrant. Ah, Ryan, did you really go there? Yes, sir, I did. So if you're on the treadmill right now listening to Jumpseat Radio, reach down there and hit that button up one more notch, because we're going to get fired up about catching a hydrant. Catching a hydrant, really? That means I'm not going in the fire. That means I'm not doing the work. That means I'm stuck and I got to walk up. Yeah. But the thing about it is this is an often overlooked skill that we get complacent on it. And here in the last couple months, I've seen people have stuck caps. They've got someone has put up a fence close to the hydrants. We had a guy break a hydrant wrench the other day. I mean, these are some complications that we need to throw in when we're reviewing these skills. Whether you're the chief of the department arriving in your buggy, hey, let me jump out and grab this hydrant for you. Whether you're assigned to the ambulance or whether anything. I mean, listen, Just because you did it 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, you did it last week, doesn't mean that you can get better at it this week. Did you have your gate valve ready? Did you fully dress your hydrant? We put a picture up on Twitter last night of the heavy hookup in DC where they had 3 5-inches off of one. Can you practice? Can you get 3 5-inches in your piece? I really can't answer that question with ladder 6, but we're going to find out next shift. Catching a hydrant is often overlooked, and it's something that you can never be too good at. So pushing firefighters number 4, go catch a hydrant, time yourself. Challenge the folks around you to challenge them to see if they can get better. Last, but certainly not least, is knowing your rig. I can't explain what it's like working on 4 different rigs on 2 different departments in 4 different days. I got caught with my britches down, so to speak. So it's like working with the volunteer company, then working with the career company, then going from a ladder to, it's just something about knowing the specific details. It's something as little as knowing where the elevator keys are, or it's something as simple as knowing where that smallest little minute detail of that rig. It's where we become most complacent, especially after you got a few minutes on the job, about knowing your equipment and knowing where everything is at. I mean, I hate to keep saying that the content comes from Ryan screwing up. Didn't screw up huge, but not understanding the whole complexity and knowing where something simple as the elevator keys are can make a big difference. So spend the time, if you're detailed, if you're bounced, if you haven't been to the voluntary house in a while, make sure someone might have changed something. Make sure to spend the time knowing your rig. And I mean intimately knowing it. I give folks a hard time all the time on my ladder company. We've got 4 different saws. I call them my kids. They've got 4 different attitudes. They've got 4 different ways of starting it. They got 4 little nuances on how to start them. You can't just you can't treat kid number 1 the same as kid number 4. It's because they don't work the same way. It's like, you've got to understand how to take care of them. Kid number 1 likes 6 primes and a half choke. Kid number 3 don't have to choke it, don't have to prime at all. It pulls on first pull. Kid number 3, you just need to understand it. And listen, there's a lot of us that go around working on different rigs at different times. We need to stop at the morning and take our time to really intimately understand the fire truck that we are riding on. All right, that's it, everyone, for this episode of Jumpseat Radio. Quick review. Can you push fire? We'll talk about that in another episode. Can you push firefighters? The answer is yes. If you're a snot-nosed probie, ask the senior man or woman to come help you do this skill and show you how it's done. If you're the first line company officer, be the first one to put your gear on, to go throw portable ladders, to identify the different stretches. Heck, go load it up a different way. If you're a triple fold, go put the Minuteman on. If you're a Minuteman, go put the flat load on. Go try some different things. If you're the chief of the department, haven't caught a hydrant in a while, hey chief, we appreciate your service. We follow you anywhere. Let's go catch hydrants. And more importantly than anything, if you're a firefighter assigned to a fire truck, you better know that rig inside and out, upside down, backwards, with your hair on fire. And that's it. All these previous topics can often be overlooked and taken for granted if we take to the drill ground together as a crew. And if we push each other to keep practicing, drilling, heck, even having some challenge between firefighters, shifts, stations, or whatever, we can make our company, the one that you are assigned to, the best company. And no one wants to be that firefighter or assigned to that company. Keep pushing. Keep pushing yourself. Keep pushing those around you. Keep pushing this thing called the fire service forward, so that way we can make a difference. All right, that's it, everyone. This is going to be a shortened version, single, no visit or no guest podcast, Jumpseat Radio number 66, Pushing Firefighters. Once again, we'd like to tell you about our new sponsor, Chief Miller. Chief Miller operates the largest Instagram page on the interwebs dedicated to the men and women of the fire service. Make sure to check him out at Chief_Miller on Instagram and ChiefMillerApparel.com. Coming up next week, we're headed down to Dallas. We're going to the Big D, and it's Dallas. Headed down to Dallas to the FRI. We'll be going down with the Vanguard safety wear, structural firefighting gloves, and the Squad 1 rescue gloves. We'll be in booth 2219. Got some cool giveaway stuff we're giving away next week at the booth. So if you're coming down to Fire Rescue International in Dallas, come on, check us out at booth 2219. We've teamed up with our friends over at BAShields.com, and we've got some cool giveaway stuff that we're going to be giving away. We'll be showing the MK1, the Squad 1, and we may dribble out a pair of Ultras while we're there, MK Ultras. So if you've got a chance to head on to FRI, make sure to follow us on all the social media at VanguardSafetyWear.com, Vanguard Safety Wear on Instagram and on the book face, and you can keep up with us there. After that, we'll be headed up to Cleveland, Ohio. We'll be doing the Fighting Fires in Hoarding Houses. classes coming to your area. We've got Cleveland, we've got Pennsylvania, we've got New York, New Jersey. We need some West Coast trips in there. So you folks listen, we're looking for some people to host some classes out on the West Coast. We will make sure that those come up and passed along on the social airwaves. You can find us at Jumpseat Views on Twitter, Facebook.com/views on the Jumpseat. Instagram is at Jumpseat Views. And as always, head on over to iTunes and please leave us that 5-star rating so more firefighters can join the Jumpseat Nation. Man, that's it, everyone. Hopefully you guys are fired up for the top 5. Go push your firefighters out the door and get busy. It's Ryan, out. You've been listening to Jumpseat Radio Podcast, sponsored by Chief Miller. You can find us on Instagram at Jumpseat Views, Twitter at Jumpseat Views, email jumpseatviews@icloud.com, and facebook.com/views on the Jumpseat. Thanks for taking the time out of your day-to-day, folks. And as always, get after it.